Welcome back to New World Next Week. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com.
And I'm James Evan Pilato for MediaMonarchy.com. To those who have reached out directly, we sincerely thank you for your continued community engagement. We've got that story plus even more monkey-wrenching the New World Order. But first, Bill Gates worked to end livestock production and pushed lab-grown meat. This coming from the fine folks at ActivistPost.com. Bill Gates and food giant Tyson heavily backed lab-grown meat research as the U.S., of course, faces unprecedented meat shortages due to processing plants going offline in, of course, response to the COVID outbreak. A long-standing globalist agenda to halt meat consumption is now being fulfilled, like all the other police state dreams are being fulfilled just magically. Tyson Foods recently warned that the food supply chain is breaking. Lockdowns have created a situation in which farmers have nowhere to send their product, and in turn, millions of animals are being slaughtered, wasted. Vegetables that would normally end up on store shelves are rotting in the field. Lab-grown meat producers are hoping that the COVID-19 outbreak could boost public acceptance, as Bill Gates was working to establish a worldwide digital ID system prior to the pandemic. That would be ID 2020. He's also working to end meat production and funding lab-grown meat. 2019 report, I think it was by TechCrunch, said that lab-grown meat was projected to hit the store shelves by 2022. Now, we do have a related note to all that rotting food. Swamp Thing Readies bailout for nation's food suppliers. So more zeros and ones and debt and fiat money printed out of thin air. Gates threat, the second, though, for this first segment. Bill Gates among 117 foreigners to be decorated by Japan. This coming from JapanToday.com. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates will be among 117 foreigners recognized by the Japanese government in this year's spring decorations for their notable contributions to relations with Japan. Gates, 64, stepped down from his role as chairman of the U.S. tech giant in 2014. And actually, if you missed it, a lot has been going on. Just last month, he left the boards of Microsoft, as well as his buddy Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, almost like he was getting prepared for a whole other sort of act, as it were. He's been focusing on so-called philanthropic activities. He will be bestowed with the Grand Cordon of the Order of the Rising Sun, the highest honor to be given in this spring's commendations. The 117 foreign recipients come from 57 countries and regions. The award ceremony, of course, was to be held next month in May at the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, has been postponed due to the spread of the coronavirus. James, there's another week of not great news coming out of Japan.
Yeah, I'm just a bit confused by this story, though, James. You mentioned this Bill Gates? Sorry, it doesn't ring a bell. I don't think I've ever heard of it. Oh, wait, right. Bill Gates, i.e. Mr. Plandemic, the man who is behind absolutely every bit of this agenda from start to finish, and everywhere you look, every rock that you pick up when it comes to the COVID world order, there is a Bill Gates-related organization or person slithering out from under it. You cannot escape the influence of the Gates Foundation at this point. So, yes, no surprise that he is also behind the agenda that has been playing out for several years now, but is obviously ramping up right at this moment, to shift the world from eating actual food into eating processed, chemically produced, lab-grown garbage that will, newsflash, probably not be as good for you as eating actual food. And this is just another example of that. So again, no surprise whatsoever that Gates funding is behind this. For people who want to know more about that agenda as it's unfolding, I'll direct them in the direction of Camille, a Corbett Report member who has a YouTube channel called Please Stop the Ride, and she's been doing a lot of videos on this subject about lab-grown meat and other such things that are being inserted into the food supply, sometimes not so overtly. It's some of it is quite overt, some of it is not so overt, and you'd be surprised how much food is already lab-grown nonsense, let alone what they plan to do with that agenda in the future. But on the note of our good old friend Bill Gates, now what is it, Order of the Rising Sun, whatever nonsense metal trinket garbage they're giving out here in Japan. And interestingly, I haven't dug into it, but at least the Japan Today article does not actually state specifically why he is receiving this medal, but one can imagine. But yes, on the notion of Bill Gates and his influence over absolutely everything that's going on right now, I am currently working on a series that will be starting to come out hopefully in the next couple of days. Anyway, you will know it when you see it, and when you do see it, not only do I, of course, encourage you to get it and to absorb it, but also please pass this information on. I don't think anything could be more important right now than deconstructing and hopefully derailing this Gates-driven agenda that's happening right now. I have a lot more to say about that, but stay tuned for more.
Well, I mean, he's almost sort of, and we're reminded of these different eras of the grand chessboard and the major moves that are made. Gates is, I mean, he's probably really maybe surpassed that sort of Rumsfeld level Luciferian where it's like, man, he's there, like the Rolling Stones sang about us. It's like he's there at every bad event that happened. James, I think it's really interesting to have all this Tyson Foods, all this stuff about, the food system is going to break down. What they mean to say is the factory poison garbage food system is going to break down. And maybe if people ate local, in-season organic foods a little more often, again, we wouldn't maybe be in the baddest situation as we're in. I've been talking a lot on, of course, my Food World Order episodes about how places like Krispy Kreme donuts and McDonald's are giving away free meals to first responders, therefore giving you the sorts of conditions that are pretty much going to make you sick and make them have to call your death a COVID-related death. It's good to hear you mention Camille. She's actually a Media Monarchy member as well, James. And that is just the first frightening segment on this New World Next Week, episode 406 for the final day of April 2020. Now, this other sort of holy crap, we are living in a Cronenberg movie. I know I seem to mention David Cronenberg a lot. His films just seem to be really fitting anymore. This other Bill Gates story and his old homies at Microsoft, I think, really probably kind of deserves its own segment, James. This coming from Cryptopolitan, and again, everything we say always included in the show notes. New Microsoft Bitcoin mining system set to transform BTC mining. This article sounds like they probably basically rewrote the Microsoft press release. The latest patent by Microsoft relates to a crypto mining system that rewards humans with cryptocurrency in lieu of performing physical tasks. The promising new Bitcoin mining system aims to lower computational power required to undertake the massive crypto mining operations whilst increasing processing speed. The patent document of Microsoft Bitcoin mining system sheds more light on the innovative concept that combines both health and crypto. Two horrible tastes that are going to taste pretty horrible together. Human bodily data is recorded when a person undertakes any sort of physical activity. The information is received in the form of either a body heat signal or a brainwave. For example, watching a video, a New World Next Week video. No, they won't give you credits for that one probably, but watching a video will generate a recordable brainwave, which will in turn be rewarded with an equivalent amount of cryptocurrency. James, maybe now, I guess in light of the lab-grown Soylent Green meat and this biometric crypto mining disaster, maybe the part about the Japan Award doesn't seem so bad, eh?
Yeah, I guess it could be worse. Like the implementation of a new social credit system that's automatic and functions on bodily functions and other things that are unconscious, as this patent goes on to state. And I hope people will go and read through the patent itself. It is illuminating in a number of respects, one of which is some of the specific examples they give of the type of user performance tasks that will generate this cryptocurrency, which of course will be some version of Libra or some Microsoft version of a permissioned, closed, centralized blockchain cryptocurrency, which is cryptocurrency in name only. But it says, for example, viewing advertisements or using certain internet services will be the types of tasks that will be monitored. And of course, this all ties back into what we've talked about here on the program before, about all the different kind of mind-reading technologies that they've been working on for years now and developing so that they can tell, what picture you're looking at just from your brainwave activity and stuff like this. Well, this is going to be used as the first order, of course, monetarily to generate money. Oh, hey, if you will view an advertisement, we'll give you one of these digital coins in your Microsoft wallet. Yay. And, of course, from there, can you imagine how this type of system might be abused? A brainwave reading technology literally implanted in everyone's heads. I wonder what could go wrong. And you know what it puts me in mind of, James, is episode 145 of the Corbett Report podcast, You Are Being Gamed, where I talked about this, and I had that most disturbing presentation ever by the guy who was enthusiastically talking about in the future, you're going to get points every time that you say an advertiser's name or product name to your friend. It'll hear, the sensor will hear it, and you'll get a point, and blah blah blah. Well, this is the exact same thing. I mean, this is exactly what they're attempting to patent now with patent. Yes, let's get it on the record. 2020 60606. I don't know. Just coincidence, I guess. But anyway, it's absolute insanity. And of course, it all ties in together. The part of the COVID world order and the normalization of contact tracing, pervasive surveillance of everything you do everywhere you go. And oh, by the way, we're working on mind-reading technologies that will give you rewards for using certain internet services like MSN.com, I guess. And, eventually, of course, the carrot will be countered with the stick. And we saw you watching New World next week. -1 credit for you. This is where this ultimately goes. Everyone knows it. It's now in popular culture with Black Mirror and things like this. So I think people understand where this is going. Again, the only question is, are you going to take it when they come along offering you this great new deal? Hey, get a Microsoft wallet and get this brain chip implanted, or whatever it will end up being. Of course, it will not be a brain chip right away. It's going to be some sort of sensing device. But the point is, at this point, at least, we can still say no. I mean, that still is within our power, so let's not forget that.
James, I had actually been sort of taking notes there while you were speaking. I had just typed out, and you pretty much just said it, biometric tattoos. They've already been talking about all those sorts of, those skin sensing tattoos. They'll ease you into it. You don't have to, go crazy and get microchipped like in Sweden already. One of my best friends is just so painfully normie. I just make my crazy conspiracy stuff just a part of the general background of all of our conversations. And I've told him recently, I was like, man, in the future, consorting with someone like me is really going to hurt your social credit. Saying essentially things like that to him. James, you and I were talking before we started rolling about the Facebook hardware that they were first rolling out a couple of years ago, Portal, with the new software that follows you around, see where your eyes are looking. And I believe we've probably covered how stores are using the tags on the shelves to see, again, which products you're looking at, which one gets your eye the most. We are being gamed. And, of course, now the new medical martial law pretty much opened the big brother floodgates for all of this stuff. All of these new products are going to be rolling out online. All the excitement of having something track and trace you at all times. Again, these aren't really new technologies. They're just openly just shoving them down our throats, basically. And again, you don't really have to shove them down people's throats when people, at least some portion of the population, are begging for it. One little bright Schadenfreude note, James, to end these awful Gates agendas. We'll include the clip of Bill Gates getting just hit with all kinds of pies in Belgium circa 1999. I know it's low-hanging lulls, but we'll take it. Our third and final segment on this Neural Next Week, episode 406, a little bit of good news. Connecticut cops cancel spy drone, showing resistance to medical martial law can work, and we return to our friends at activistpost.com when the citizens of Westport, Connecticut, express their anger at the city's plans to use drone technology to spy on its citizens by making sure they're adhering to social distancing guidelines. 2 days later, the program was shut down. Westport Police Department announced at the end of the program and even cited the concerned citizens as a factor in the decision. Quote, the department's recent announcement of its plan to partner and participate in a test of new drone technology has resulted in varied expressions of public concern and reservations, and I imagine some of those contained four-letter words and strong feelings. To those who have reached out directly with these questions or concerns, we sincerely thank you for your continued community engagement and seek to assure you that your voices have been heard. Cops across the country have been acquiring these drones, some of which were donated from China and were just grounded by the U.S. Department of the Interior over spying concerns of only in January of this year, 2020. Some officials clearly aware that China could be using the information for these drones to spy on America, but continue their use anyway. Almost like they're only our kabuki enemy, and the idea that we're somehow against them is for Sally soccer moms and Joe 12-packs. James, we have the updated press release, Westport Police Department statement on the drone pilot program. One other little fun note of pushback. California cops heckled as they tell 93-year-old couple they can't sit in chairs on the beach. The beach is not locked down, but you can't sit in chairs on the beach. The officers who were on horseback, just peak plantation slave master style. The cops were actually heckled by other beachgoers for harassing the couple about their chairs. Okay, one more funny video. Pretty great video of a guy following and yelling at New York City Mayor de Blasio for a pretty dumb PR stunt gone wrong. James, we talked about this just last week. Monkey wrenching the New World Order. And again, as we are about to see the dawn of May Day, I don't think we've seen anything yet.
Yeah. As people who follow our work know, heckling, parodying, satirizing, making fun of the stupidity of these would-be dictators is one important tool that we can use. It should be in our toolbox because absolutely, it's horrible things that are being done, but sometimes you have to laugh at these pathetic bootlicking would-be jackbooted dictators to show the public what they are, that the emperor is not wearing any clothes. So I do applaud when people do make fun of this nonsense. That can be effective, as again, complaining to police departments and whatever. I mean, again, it's like begging for scraps from the master's table, but at any rate, we should be doing it. As I say, doing everything on all fronts, all the time. Do not hold back on this or that front because you think it's ineffective. Sometimes there is some sort of progress made, and some police departments will relent. But you know what I find funny about this story? How it's reported, these Chinese-made drones. The Chinese government may be spying on you through this technology. So, wait, if the drones were U.S.-made, what would that imply? Oh, that's right. The U.S. government would be spying. I mean, again, yeah, I agree. We should not be accepting Chinese-made drones in order to spy on our population. But then again, we shouldn't be accepting, it's U.S.-made, it's Japanese-made, it's Canadian-made. Oh, yay. No, that isn't the solution to any of this. But I like how this is always embedded in these types of stories. It's like 5G. We can't let China roll out the 5G networks because they could use that as a weapon against our populations. But wait, so if it's a U.S. network? Which government would be using it as a weapon against the population? Again, it's funny to see this truth embedded in articles like these.
Well, again, funny is a way to put it, as I often say on the show. Sometimes we got to laugh to not cry. And a lot of these things, again, like we were talking last week of people being, put into the spot of reopen America, Trump rules, or you're killing grandma. And those are the only two choices you can make. There's Coke or Pepsi. Those are your only two choices. Again, they give us these kind of false dichotomies, and doesn't matter what choice we make, they still ultimately win. Fighting back on any number of levels and maybe really ultimately not taking part. Because again, like I said last week, if there's anything the state's really good at, it is killing you when you think you're going to rise up against them. Yikes. James, that is episode 406 of New World Next Week. I always like to remind folks, implore folks, invite folks over to my radio stream. I'm an old school radio guy. I started doing it when I was 18 in 1995, and I've made radio in some way, shape, or form ever since then. At Media Monarchy, I stream news, music, memes, and more Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Mountain Time, 8 hours a day. It's like the best damn radio station you never heard, as I like to describe it. Hope folks will come check that out, James, as I think that pretty much does it for another important episode. Again, we've been doing these for a decade, and suddenly, in a lot of ways, it's never been more important. So I thank you.
All right, buddy. Looking forward to next week. Take care.
You too.